We've all heard the stereotype. Medieval people were filthy. The common story says they never bathed, lived in constant dirt, and smelled absolutely terrible. But here is the shocking truth. Almost everything you think you know about medieval hygiene is completely wrong. Medieval people actually cared deeply about cleanliness, and they had sophisticated methods for staying clean. They did have soap. They did bathe regularly. The real hygiene crisis came after the Middle Ages, not during them. Today, we are going to completely destroy the myth of the dirty Middle Ages and show you how medieval people actually stayed remarkably clean without modern plumbing or running water. Let us start by addressing the biggest misconception. The hygiene habits of people in the Middle Ages are often mischaracterized because in the subsequent Renaissance, there was indeed a significant abandonment of hygienic practices. This decline was likely driven in part by syphilis-induced mass closures of public bathhouses in the 1500s. This is absolutely critical to understand. The stereotype of medieval filth actually describes the Renaissance and the early modern period, not the Middle Ages themselves. As Erasmus of Rotterdam noted in the 1520s, within a quarter of a century, almost all the public bathhouses in Brabant were shuttered because the new disease scared away clients. These closures changed the customs of entire societies. The very thing we associate with the Middle Ages, the idea of people being dirty and never bathing, actually happened after the Middle Ages ended. Medieval people actually thought that bathing and being clean was pleasant. Giving it up and living with your stench was a sign that you had given up on the corporeal world and only thought of heaven. It was considered holy because it was uncomfortable. The saints who did not bathe were notable precisely because that behavior was unusual and extreme. So, what did medieval people actually do on a daily basis? Throughout history, people have taken steps to keep themselves clean and healthy. While fully immersive bathing in a hot tub was far more problematic than it is today, the average medieval person washed daily. The 14th century Italian physician Mino de' Manieri wrote that the bath cleans the external body parts of dirt left behind from exercise. Medieval peasants have long been the butt of jokes regarding hygiene, but it was common practice for just about everyone to wash the hands and face in the morning. Everyone was expected to do what was called top and tail, which meant washing the face, underarms, and private regions at least once a day. For the poor, or those living in the countryside, this could be a simple wipe down at a horse trough with a wet rag, or dunking in a nearby source of water. If they had lots of money, or were a lord or lady in a castle, they would top and tail at least twice a day, perhaps more. Medieval people employed several clever strategies for daily washing without plumbing. The vast majority of people would have made do with a quick wash using a basin of cold water, as 80% of the population did physically demanding jobs working the land. It is likely that washing of some kind was done on a daily basis. If they had the coin or the time to spare, jugs, hot water, and bowls provided a simple but effective washing system. The simplest way around the problem of no running water was to bring yourself to the water. People used their legs to carry themselves to whatever user-friendly body of water was nearby. Then they tossed themselves in. However, that would have been more appealing in summer than winter. People also washed at home, even if it did mean carrying the water. For most people, washing at home meant pouring water into a basin and taking a cat bath. You used water and a cloth, rubbed until clean, and that was it. Linen's antibacterial qualities make it especially good at dealing with sweat, and simply cleaning your body with a linen rag or cloth is also remarkably effective. Hand washing held particular importance in medieval society. There were common expectations of personal hygiene, such as regularly washing from a basin, especially the hands before and after eating, which was regarded as good etiquette in a period when cutlery was still a rarity. Without forks, people ate with their hands, making hand washing essential for both health and courtesy. Now let's tackle the soap question. One of the biggest misconceptions is that medieval people lacked soap. The truth is quite different. Yes, they used soap. In fact, soap was often made at home and widely available as a trade good. As early as the 9th century, in Europe, it was made of animal fat and wood ash, and sometimes scented with fresh herbs like sage and thyme. Medieval soap production involved a chemical process called saponification, combining two readily available materials, animal fat and lye from wood ashes. The process started with making lye. Old-fashioned lye was made using hardwood ashes, a barrel, and rainwater. After filling a barrel with hardwood ashes, rainwater was poured through the ashes to leach out the brown lye liquid. Then came combining the lye with fat. In a brass pan, the lye would be brought to a boil. Animal fat was melted and added to the mixture. The mixture was stirred until the chemical reaction turned the fat into soap. Once thickened, the mixture was poured into a mold and left to dry into a firm cake of soap. Soap making became increasingly organized during the medieval period. The first prominent center of soap making is thought to be Marseille, France, in the 13th century. Rival centers included Genoa, Venice, and Bari in Italy, and Castilla in Spain. There is also evidence of soap-making production centers in England, in the towns of Bristol, Coventry, and London. Medieval soap makers even had their own guilds, just like other craftsmen. There was a distinction between everyday soap and luxury soap. Soap made from animal fats had an unpleasant smell. Better-smelling cleansing soap began to arrive from Islamic lands, where makers used olive oil and sometimes lime. The wealthy might bathe with the most expensive soap made from olive oil, known as Castile soap. For the poor, bathing often meant washing with sweet-smelling oils or, if they could afford it, tallow soap. Now, let's talk about the public bathhouse culture. Public bathhouses were ubiquitous in medieval towns and cities. By the 13th century, there were 32 bathhouses in Paris and 18 in London. In the 14th century, Augsburg and Vienna had 17 and 29 bathing establishments respectively. Even smaller towns would have bathhouses, often connected with the local bakery, so the baths could use heat from the ovens to warm water. Medieval bathhouses served multiple functions beyond mere cleanliness. Bathing was often a community activity. In its medieval heyday, the bathhouse could be likened to a combination of today's cinema, amusement park, pool hall, and popular street corner. By the 15th century, bath feasting in many town bathhouses seems to have been as common as going out to a restaurant was to become 4 centuries later. While bathing, medieval people would gossip, play games, eat, and drink. It was their version of going to the pub. In medieval illustrations, you can find people sitting in large wooden tubs, eating from boards placed across them to form tables. Bathhouses operated under strict municipal regulation. Paris had particularly detailed rules. No one could advertise their baths until daylight because of dangers. No bathhouse keeper could allow prostitutes, lepers, vagabonds, or other infamous people. No one could heat baths on Sundays or feast days. Pricing was regulated. Every person should pay 2 deniers for a steam bath, and 4 deniers if they bathed. In some towns, those who did not visit a public bath at least once a week could be fined, demonstrating how seriously authorities took public hygiene. In 1480, a peasant had to pay 1 heller, the smallest coin, to partake of a steam bath. Overall, visiting a bathhouse was affordable for most people, except the extremely impoverished. The wealthy enjoyed private bathing facilities with luxurious amenities. When King John traveled around his kingdom, he took a bathtub with him and had a personal attendant named William who handled it. In 1351, Edward III paid for taps of hot and cold water that went straight to his bathtub at Westminster Palace. Royalty throughout Europe often entertained guests with baths. Charlemagne loved taking baths and would invite not only his sons to bathe with him, but his nobles and friends as well. Occasionally, he even brought a crowd of attendants and bodyguards, so that sometimes 100 men or more would be in the water together. Medieval people also maintained other aspects of personal grooming. they cleaned their teeth. People in the countryside used fresh hazel twigs as toothbrushes. The twig would become brush-like after the end was chewed. Others wiped their teeth with a linen cloth. Instead of toothpaste, people used sea salt and ground herbs. Cloves were a favorite. Cloves could also be steeped to make a mouthwash, and they are so effective that clove oil is still used in dental treatment today. Hair was washed using soap or an alkaline solution made by mixing lime and salt. This removed oils and dirt, creating a cleansing effect similar to modern shampoo. People in the Middle Ages would wash their clothes regularly and hang them outside to dry. They used soap made from ashes and animal fat, and beat the dirt out with sticks. Linen undergarments were excellent at absorbing and neutralizing odors. Linen's antibacterial qualities made them especially good at dealing with sweat. This explains why changing linen undergarments frequently was considered equivalent to bathing. Medieval people also used perfumes and fragrances to mask unpleasant odors, and for their believed medicinal properties. They applied perfumes to skin and clothing, and burned scented candles and incense. Bathing often consisted of washing the body with sweet-smelling oils, which served multiple purposes: cleansing, moisturizing, providing a pleasant scent, and offering potential antimicrobial benefits. Medieval medical texts emphasize the importance of bathing for health. Ancient and medieval physicians believed that bathing and maintaining hygiene could cure many diseases. A Latin poem, likely first written in the 11th century, advised washing hands and face in cold water in the morning and taking care to keep warm after a bath. So when did bathing culture actually decline? The disease syphilis, which spread more rapidly in Europe in the late 15th century, motivated people to stop frequenting bathhouses. The Dutch philosopher Erasmus, writing in 1526, noted that 25 years earlier, nothing was more fashionable in Brabant than public baths. Today there are none, he remarked. The new plague has taught us to avoid them. By the late 15th century, public baths had been abolished. By the 16th century, through the prosecution of the church, dwindling wood supplies, and the plague, public bathing had died out. Household inventories indicate that bathing accessories gradually disappeared from wealthy houses throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. Only when the Middle Ages came to an end did people stop bathing. So why does the myth persist? Many of these ideas were the product of Victorian writers and historians who were viewing medieval life through the lens of their own society. Those scholars, shaped by cultural assumptions and a desire to portray their era as superior, created a caricature of medieval filth that persists today. The actual decline in hygiene happened in the Renaissance and the early modern period, from the 16th to the 18th centuries, not during the Middle Ages. The genuine hygiene problems of that later era have been retroactively applied to the medieval period. Daily washing was so routine, it often went unrecorded, while unusual behaviors, such as saints not bathing, were noted precisely because they were exceptional. Medieval people stayed clean through daily washing routines using basins and cloths. They used homemade and commercial soap produced through saponification. They relied on extensive public bathhouse networks that provided affordable access to bathing. They practiced regular laundry with special attention to linen undergarments, maintained oral hygiene with natural toothbrushes and herbal cleaners, and had social and economic incentives that made cleanliness valued. The idea of the dirty Middle Ages is exactly that, a myth. Medieval people cared about hygiene and washed often, even peasants, farmers, and the poor. Their approach to hygiene was different from our own. They lacked indoor plumbing, hot water on demand, and modern toiletries. Still, they understood the importance of cleanliness, developed effective methods for achieving it, and created a bathhouse culture so popular that its decline in the 16th century was noteworthy. When we mock medieval people for being dirty, we reveal our own ignorance of history. The medieval period had sophisticated hygiene practices adapted to its circumstances. The real hygiene crisis came after the Middle Ages, when disease fears and changing religious attitudes led Europeans to abandon the bathing culture their medieval ancestors had maintained.